You know, if you've ever lived in a place with a homeowners association, you know the deal. The tension that can build over something as simple as a parking spot, it's real. Today, we're diving into one of those disputes, a classic showdown that started with a few cars and ended up in a full-blown legal hearing. And let me tell you, it's got some powerful lessons for residents everywhere. It's a question that drives people crazy, right? You see the rules, you see your neighbors breaking them every single day, you send an email, and you hear crickets. So what's your next move? Well, one resident in Arizona got so fed up, he decided to push the issue and find out what it really takes to hold an HOA accountable. All right, let's set the scene. Our story takes place at the Mesa Coronado 3 condominiums. And like in so many communities, the most precious, most fought-over resource wasn't the swimming pool or the clubhouse. Nope, it was just a simple place to park your car.
Okay, let's start with the basic numbers. We've got a community with 33 condo units. So, a pretty small, tight-knit development. Now, for those 33 units, there are a grand total of 36 open parking spaces. Yeah, you don't have to be a math whiz to see how incredibly tight that is. With a margin that thin, having clear, enforceable rules isn't just a nice idea. It's absolutely essential. And look, they did have rules established way back in 2002. The logic was pretty simple. Each home can have a maximum of 2 cars. Your first car has to go in the garage, no exceptions. That's supposed to free up the open lot spaces for everyone's second car on a first-come, first-served basis. They also banned junk cars just sitting around and even laid out a system of warnings and fines. Seems straightforward enough, right?
Well, over time, those rules started to feel more like, dental suggestions. And this is where resident John W. Gray enters the picture. He saw the rules being completely ignored, he saw the parking chaos it was causing, and he decided enough is enough. It's time to force the HOA to actually do its job.
And here's the crucial part. He didn't just fly off the handle and sue them. He followed the procedure. On May 17th, he sent a detailed written complaint. 2 months go by, nothing's changed. So he follows up again. It was only after being totally ignored that he escalated things, filing a formal petition with the state at the end of July.
And this wasn't some vague, hey, people are parking wrong kind of complaint. Oh no, Mr. Gray did his homework. He documented everything. 8 specific units breaking the rules, residents with 3 cars who were using their garages for storage, a red truck that hadn't moved in over a year, even a commercial truck storing hazardous pool chemicals. He even went so far as to hire a private investigator to confirm who owned which vehicles. This wasn't just a grievance. This was a meticulously built case.
So, faced with this mountain of evidence, how did the HOA respond? Well, their defense was, let's just say, creative, and it came with a wild, last-minute twist.
You can really see the standoff here. Gray comes with specific, documented violations. The HOA's main defense, that the rules were almost impossible to enforce around the clock. They said they were maybe, kinda reviewing the rules, and yeah, they sent one letter about that red truck. And then, they tried to turn the tables, accusing Mr. Gray himself of parking in the fire lane.
So the two sides were at a complete standstill, barreling towards a formal hearing. But the HOA, they had one more card up their sleeve. Just 6 days before they were all supposed to be in front of a judge,
they held a quick board meeting and completely changed the rules of the game. The biggest change? They got rid of the 2-car limit per unit, the very rule that was at the heart of Mr. Gray's entire complaint. It was a pretty clever strategic move, designed to make his original complaint legally irrelevant or moot, since the rule he was complaining about technically didn't exist anymore.
But that last-minute maneuver wasn't enough to stop the process. On October 29, 2018, both parties had to show up and present their arguments before an administrative law judge.
And right away, the level of preparation on each side was just telling. John Gray, the resident, he submitted 23 different exhibits. We're talking photos, documents, the investigator's report, the whole shebang. The HOA, represented by a law firm, submitted just 4.
So it all boiled down to this. Gray presented his hard data, showing how just 12 units were hogging 27 of the limited parking spots, basically squeezing out the other 21 families. The HOA's argument was purely procedural. They claimed their new rules made the whole thing invalid and then tried to downplay it by saying, hey, nobody else is complaining.
So, who did the judge side with? The resident with a mountain of evidence or the HOA with its last-minute rule change? Okay, let's get to the verdict.
The judge's decision was incredibly clear, and this one line just says it all. She wrote that the HOA's argument that its own rules were unenforceable was, and I quote, not a viable defense. She basically told them, sorry, you can't just throw up your hands and say it's too hard to do your job.
The final ruling was simple, direct, and powerful. The judge found that the Mesa Coronado 3 Condominium Association had failed in its fundamental duty to enforce the rules that were on the books at the time of the complaint. And there was a tangible consequence. It's not a huge amount of money, but the judge ordered the HOA to pay Mr. Gray back his $500 filing fee. It was a symbolic and, more importantly, an official recognition that he was right and they were wrong.
So why does this one little parking dispute in Arizona matter to the rest of us? Because it perfectly illustrates some huge principles. First, an HOA has a legal duty to enforce its own rules. Second, claiming those rules are too hard to enforce is not a get-out-of-jail-free card. For residents, this is a masterclass in how keeping meticulous records can be your most powerful weapon. And finally, it proves that the persistence of just one person can actually force a big organization to be held accountable.
And that really brings it all full circle, doesn't it? It's one thing to have rules written down in a binder somewhere, but it's a completely different thing to see them enforced fairly and consistently for everyone. This case is a powerful reminder to just look around your own neighborhood and ask, how well are the rules really being enforced where I live?